Comments made on this show could break impasses for people watching. Now, stranger things have happened this week in international diplomacy. I'm Charlie Sykes, and Sunday Insight starts right now. Good morning and welcome to Sunday Insight. In the week that was, an Illinois company with more than 400 jobs says it is moving its operations to Wisconsin. Something about lower business taxes here or something. A federal judge upholds Act 10, the law that cut the powers of public employee unions. Speaking of which, Kenosha teachers vote to decertify their union, the third largest in the state. The country stepped back from war in Syria. No bombings, no congressional vote as diplomacy continues. Wisconsin Senator Tammy Baldwin, by the way, joined other Democrats and state Republicans in the state, saying that she would vote against a resolution authorizing any attack. In Colorado, 2 Democrat state senators are recalled after they voted for tough new gun control laws. The Packers lost a tough season opener to the 49ers, and they'll try to get a win later today when the Redskins visit Lambeau. And yes, they are still called the Redskins. And the Brewers season continues pretty much the same way it's been all year. But we start with the increasingly contentious battle over Indian casinos. It'll be up to Governor Scott Walker to decide whether to okay a big new casino in Kenosha, a plan opposed by the Potawatomi, who operate a big casino up the road here in Milwaukee. But the governor has come under pressure and in some cases fire from his fellow Republicans on the issue. A rather substantial number of those Republican office holders now say they want Walker to approve the deal. So far, the list includes Racine County Executive Jim Ladwick and State Representative Dave Craig, Tyler August, Thomas Weatherston, Jeff Mursaw, Samantha Kirkman, and Representative Gary Tauken. So the question is Walker losing the right on this issue? Now, joining me on our panel this morning, the Milwaukee Community Journal's Michael Holt, former State Representative Michelle Litchens, political strategist Linda Bruin, and the president of the Wisconsin Policy Research Institute, Mike Nichols. We'll start with you, Mike. Is the governor starting to lose his own base on this issue of the casino, because he's considered unlikely to approve the Kenosha casino?
Right. Well, he's losing certainly his base down in the Kenosha area, and that's not surprising because there's a lot of benefit down in the Kenosha area locally, and there's benefit for the Menominee tribe if it happens down there. But the question is whether there's benefit for the rest of the state, and that's what the governor has to look at. We had a study that we did about a year ago, actually done by Dan Alish, who's a professor at UWGB, that indicated that it appears that the casino market is really saturated here, or very close to saturated, which means that if there's a casino down in Kenosha, it's probably going to pull jobs, income, investment from other areas of the state. So you have to kind of look at it from a policy angle that way about whether it's a good thing for the state as a whole.
But on the other hand, I think the Menominee have done a good job in setting this as a jobs issue. And they're running ads, television, radio ads, saying to the governor, you should just say, yes, this is 3,500 jobs. You're running on jobs. You're going to run next year on jobs. It's kind of created a trick box for the governor, hasn't it?
Well, yes, and I think the way he's described his position on it has caused him even further trouble. If he was saying just what Mike just said, there's a lot of credibility to that. At least it's a rational argument. But what he has said is that he wants the 11 other tribes to agree. And these are nation tribes in business competition with each other. And so what basically Walker did was say that McDonald's has to approve an expansion of Burger King. So conservatives, as well as anyone who believes in a free market, is looking at that and saying that that's not appropriate. They're also independent nations, so it's almost like asking the French to agree to a British proposal. It doesn't make any sense, and that's hurting him as well.
Okay, where are the Republicans, though, supporting the governor's position on this? Now, Glenn Grothman came out pretty strong, but that's pretty much the only voice, because I'm coming every week. There's another Republican legislator who seems to line up in favor of this casino. Is this a political problem for the governor?
I really don't think it is going to be a political problem. And just to get back to it, it's not a free market. The casino business is not a free market at all. There are 6 Republican legislators out of 78 that were given an opportunity to sign on to Samantha Kirkman's letter, and they decided not to do so. And the first cheerleader out of the box against the casino was Senator Glenn Grothman. Another very active conservative in the state, Jelaine Appling, who's president of the Wisconsin Family Action Council, she shot out a letter saying that she's opposed to the casino. Most conservatives really don't want to see gambling expanded in the state of Wisconsin. And when they talk about expanding jobs, 3,500 jobs, that's not a net gain of jobs. You know, those are, if people are spending their expendable income somewhere in the area. They might be spending it at a restaurant or shopping or home improvements or whatnot. So those jobs are going to go away at the game.
Michael Holt.
Yeah, so thus far, 8 of the 11 tribes have given their approval of this. But if you look at the 3 tribes who say no, you know, you're talking about Milwaukee, which is the biggest market, Green Bay, and Wisconsin Dells. And they're too close. They would lose the most because we're talking about a lot of traffic from Illinois that now comes all the way up to Milwaukee or Wisconsin Dells or whatever. Potawatomis are not going to allow this to go through. And if the governor holds firm to his position, this is going nowhere.
Well, actually, it was interesting this last week. You actually had a group of Democratic legislators from Milwaukee who were opposed to the casino, raising questions about it. So, to a certain extent, we have very unusual in this state. These Republican legislators that I mentioned, the 6 who are supporting the casino, and Democrats who may be siding with Walker on this. Is this a net political or minus for the governor at this point?
Is it a net minus? No, I don't think it's a net minus for him. I think if he adheres to the criteria that he's set up, I don't think that it will be a minus for him with the people who are apt to vote for him and who support him.
But whoever runs against him are going to make this a big issue. So they talk about
by saying what?
He said he promised 250,000 jobs.
Yeah.
He's turning away jobs.
But
That's what they're going to say.
That's a bigger issue than the casino. I think overall the casino issue is more of a neutral, kind of middle of the road issue for people. It's not the #1 thing that's going to make someone vote Republican or Democrat in the polls or pick Walker over a different Republican. I just don't think it's got that kind of juice.
Okay, what has your glass half full? What has your glass half empty this week? Let's go around the table. Michael Holt.
Well, my glass is half full because this past week President Obama took bombing off the table. But it's half empty because he really left it in the shadows and said if these negotiations don't work, we're still going to bomb you.
Michelle Litchens.
My glass is half full because Democrat voters in Colorado decided to recall 2 of the representatives because they expanded gun control, showing the entire country that Americans don't support more gun control. But my glass is half empty because we have a couple yahoos in Appleton who decided to walk around with assault weapons, putting a black eye on all gun owners.
Linda Bruin.
Well, my glass is half full because last week Anthony Weiner, the former sexting congressman, lost his bid, his primary bid to be mayor of New York City. But my glass is half empty because Apple also last week introduced their new iPhone, which guess what, has a wonderful new 8-megapixel camera, which virtually guarantees that we'll be seeing more of Mr. Weiner in the future.
Well, he's got time on his hands now. Mike Nichols.
My glass is half full because the Secretary of the Navy says he wants to buy 50 more littoral combat ships, which is a really good thing for Marinette, where many of these are built. It's half empty because there have been cost overruns on these ships and a lot of performance issues as well.
Well, actually, I'm going to follow up. I'm going to follow up on hers because my glass is half full because Anthony Weiner's not going to be the mayor of New York. It's half empty because we won't be able to make Anthony Weiner jokes anymore, and that's a loss. Next on Sunday Insight, a big week for Governor Scott Walker's Act 10. Well, it was a big week for Act 10. More than 2 years after the contentious battle over collective bargaining, a federal judge in Madison throws out a union challenge to the law. And in Kenosha, the state's 3rd largest teachers union is decertified. But that may be only the tip of the iceberg. After the Kenosha vote, an official of the state teachers union said, "It seems like the majority of our affiliates in the state are not seeking recertification." So what is going on here, Michelle Litchens, who voted for Act 10?
Yeah, isn't this fantastic what's going on? And think about it, when we were actually debating this, you know, we were all told that the sky was going to fall, our schools are going to close, and now our teachers actually have a choice if they want to pay dues to a union. And I think better yet, this union's going to have to decide that they have to prove to their members that they have value other than just campaigning and giving money to Democrats that support mandatory
Okay,
dues.
now this would be a big deal under any circumstance, but we're talking about Kenosha. We're talking about the 3rd largest district. We're talking about a city that is very union friendly. How big a deal is this?
Well, it's a huge deal, and I think what was so disingenuous a couple of years ago were folks who made the argument that taking away the union's ability to collectively bargain for so many of the key pieces of an individual's pay and benefit package wouldn't harm the unions. I don't have a problem with the folks who want members to be able to have an ability to decide whether to join. But when they took away all of the union's collective bargaining power other than just for the salary, they basically destroyed the union fabric in this state. And that's where the tragedy is. So I'm not celebrating. I'm not celebrating by this at all.
The tragedy that now individual teachers get to choose.
Yes, But they did it. They set up an unfair playing field for that choice, because the unions have absolutely nothing to bargain for other than a salary that's capped, none of the benefits or the work rules. So why have a union? You set them up to be destroyed.
The reports that I've seen indicate that only 37% of the teachers voted to recertify the union. You know what, Lynn? This is what democracy looks like.
Okay, so
well, I disagree that it's a tragedy. If you look just at MPS, Lynn, they're going to save $1 billion. I think this has been unreported. $1 billion in retirement costs. Ongoing, I think through 2020 or something like that, or 2022, $1 billion just there. The repercussions of Act 10 as time goes on are just more and more apparent. I think when Scott Walker dies, this is going to be on his tombstone. Act 10. This is a huge deal.
Okay, Michael.
I'm waiting to see what's going to happen with the Milwaukee Teachers Union, MTEA. Because their contract just ended. One of the keys to this is Act 10 also said that the local governments like MPS can no longer take the dues out of their paycheck. So that means these teachers have to sit there and say, will I get them $75? That's 2 tankfuls of gas. That's a week of food. I mean, that's the money that they actually plow back into the classroom because kids don't have, supplies and stuff. So when MTA drops and falls, then it's really over.
The unions helped create a strong, healthy middle class in this country, and the middle class has been shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. In the long term, I agree with you that there's millions of dollars of short-term savings.
Are any of these teachers now no longer? See, let me tell you why I think that's bogus. Because number one, first of all, the teachers are still going to be middle class, and the union legacy in central city schools, school districts like, for example, Milwaukee or Janesville or Racine or Kenosha, has been to stand in the schoolhouse door. They have block reforms. They have put the needs of the union ahead of the needs of the children. And I think Mike is absolutely right that what we're going to see over the next few years is what you can do in some of these school districts that never would have been possible before.
And in the end, it's going to be better for the kids. And I know people think it's a cliche, but it's true.
You may not want to hear it, but we're going to tell you anyway. Let's hand out some unsolicited advice. Michael Holt, you're first.
Well, to those 2, what did you call them, yahoos from Appleton walking around with M16s trying to make a point, don't try that in Milwaukee, because Chief Flynn said he would throw your butts behind bars.
Michelle Itchins.
Well, if you were thinking of moving to California, here's one more reason not to. Their state senate just recently voted to not test their students for English or math skills this year. So some advice is don't move to California.
Yeah, great idea. Linda Bruin.
Well, for a short time last Thursday, customers using the United Airlines website were able to spend only $5 or $10 for their airfare because United mistakenly offered free airfare on all their tickets. Some customers bought dozens of tickets and saved themselves thousands of dollars, and now United has to decide whether to honor the tickets. My advice: honor the tickets, or the backlash might cost you more.
Mike Nichols.
My advice is to the guy wearing the Bucky Badger costume with the Solidarity Singer performances at the Capitol. Next time, dress up like a weasel. I think it'll fit better.
Okay, so my unsolicited advice is kind of similar to Michael Holtz, to those 2 guys up in Appleton who were carrying the AR-15s to the farmers market up in Appleton. You are not helping your cause with this. You know what? You do not win people's confidence by scaring the crap out of them. Next on Sunday Inside, did the First Lady oversell what she was promoting when she came to Watertown on Thursday? Do you drink enough water? Really? The First Lady came to Watertown last week to tout drinking water. Get it? Watertown, water. Well, not everybody was enthusiastic. Dr. Stanley Goldfarb of the University of Pennsylvania told Politico it's not a very scientific approach they've taken to make it a major public health effort. I would say it's bizarre. So what do you think, Michael Holt?
Well, this wasn't just about water. It was about healthy lifestyles for kids, and there was water just a part of it. I heard you on Friday, what you had, like 7 or 8, 9 myths exposed. Yeah. You were wrong on all of them. I'm not a doctor, but I used to play doctor.
Excuse me, it might have been, I was reading from National Public Radio all of the research on water, that water is a little bit overplayed.
I've had doctors tell me that in order to celebrate weight loss, you should drink water. You should drink water all the time. And if you're drinking water, you're probably not drinking soda. Even if it's diet soda, the acid mess up your teeth and stuff. I still say, I'm not a doctor, but I played one as a kid.
Okay, doctor.
And all your, whatever he said was wrong.
Dr. Holt, here's my somewhat more serious criticism. I mean, I would like to know where all the money came from for this junket since we had that sequester. School kids can't get into the White House to do tours, but the First Lady can bring Eva Longoria in to tout bottled water. But is this really her issue? In the city of Milwaukee, she had to fly over the city of Milwaukee where kids are dying on the streets, where they're getting a lousy education, they're not learning how to read and write, where babies are being smothered by their drunken mothers, and she is going to Watertown to tell white kids in rural Wisconsin to drink more water. That's her issue? Seriously?
I agree with you in part. There should have been another issue. I think she should be prioritizing some other issues. They chose Watertown in part because it has water in the name.
Okay, who is doing this? Who's doing the PR? Beavis and Butthead? I mean, water. Okay, Michelle Legends.
Also, I just have to say, it's a little bit degrading, I found, for the First Lady. She's out there talking about water. We have kids dying of heroin. Now it's an epidemic across the country. And like you were talking about the students in the city of Milwaukee, she could really be talking about edgy and more important issues as the First Lady, and yet she's out there trying to tout drinking water. I didn't think that it was
Okay, now Linda Boone, who actually is a nurse, she's not playing one, Michael. She is a nurse.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, there's a lot of benefits to water, but I think what this showed me is how much times have changed. Because in the 1950s, the first wives of the President of the United States were on TV touting the China pattern that they were changing in the White House. And then when Hillary Clinton became the First Lady of our country, she was rep for, well, it was a bad healthcare plan, but she was rep for getting into politics. And now Michelle Obama is getting rep for getting too involved in a serious issue, which is our children's health. So the bottom line is...
The serious issue is our children's health.
Yeah. The bottom line is...
She's getting rap for nagging us.
No, the water part of it is a bit ridiculous and overblown, but at least we've got the first wives in this country having some legitimate, serious discussions
This
going
is legitimate, serious discussion.
No, the whole children's health issues and obesity is a big deal.
By the way, when did Eva Longoria stop pushing junk food? Isn't she the spokeswoman for Lay's potato chips? Well, never mind. Mike Nichols.
Somebody must be listening to her because they put water in my coffee cup.
I've
always wanted coffee in here or Bloody Marys or something. Why water?
Well, people have always wondered what Michael Holt drinks. That's been going on
There's
for
something
years.
better to push than water. That's my bottom line.
Okay, so it's, we managed to get through this entire conversation amazingly without one person mentioning Michelle Obama's amazing arms. Amazing arms. So is what they said this week the same thing as what you heard? Let's go around the table. Michael Holt.
Well, a real estate developer was successful in getting bus service stopped to his 3 suburban businesses. Supervisor Mike Mayo said it would inconvenience the elderly and disabled. What I actually heard was he was actually saying this guy wants to stop undesirables from coming out to the suburbs. And you know who these undesirables are.
Michelle Litchens.
I heard Mayor Barrett say that Milwaukee is now the water capital. But what I heard was this flushing sound out into Lake Michigan.
Linda Bruin.
How can you come after that one? Well, when the WMC ad thanks Governor Walker for Wisconsin's recent economic job improvements, what I hear instead is the realization that Wisconsin is ranked one of the worst in the nation for job creation and economic growth. So our numbers only have up to go.
Mike Nichols.
Well, what I heard from the knuckleheads carrying the AR-15s to the farmers market in Appleton was that they were just going shopping. What I heard was a immature cry for attention.
What they said was, John Kerry said that if we bombed Syria, our strike would be unbelievably small. What I heard were our enemies laughing at us. Next on Sunday Inside, our panel picks the winners and losers of the week. But first, here's your morning news update. It's time for our panel to pick the winners and losers of the week. Michael Holt, you're first.
The losers this week are public service unions. This affirmation by the courts means all over but the shouting for unions. My winners actually are anybody who supports the Native Americans who will be standing in front of Lambeau Field today to protest these racist team names like Redskins. This is really more of the protest, though. It's actually about education. When we're more educated about stereotypes, we can all move forward.
Yeah, you should ask RG3 about that. Michelle Litchens.
My loser may be the American oil consumer. Russia's only wealth comes from oil and gas exports. If the U.S. is no longer seen as a superpower in the Middle East and Russia is able to control their oil and gas exports, we will all see prices skyrocket until the United States is finally energy independent. My winner is Kenosha for the 621 jobs Kenall Manufacturing is bringing to Wisconsin. These are wealth-creating jobs. This just proves that we don't need the state to give special permission to someone for jobs to be created in Wisconsin.
Linda Bruin.
Well, my winners are the millions of Americans who honored the victims of 9/11 on our 12th anniversary of the worst terrorist attack in our nation's history. My losers are the jihadis who spent Wednesday celebrating the attacks on dozens of forums across the Middle East. A Tunisian group even posted a photo of a 9/11 cake decorated with happy 911 candles, a model plane in bin Laden's face. Their hatred is why I'm so thankful for my other winners, those in law enforcement and national security who work every day to prevent this from happening again.
Mike Nichols.
My loser, Joe Gow, the UW lacrosse chancellor, who was concerned about a 9/11 flag display because it was in the shape of a cross. Not only does he fail to understand freedom of expression and religion, he appears blind to the symbolism of all the iron crosses found in and made from the wreckage of the towers. My winners, the 9/11 terrorists who are sitting in Gitmo but who still haven't been tried.
Still. My losers, Time Warner Cable. Yesterday, I cut the cord, so Time Warner Cable won't get to continue to block shows I want to watch. And here's the bad news for the cable company. It was easy, I saved money, and no, I won't miss you. Winners, the Kenosha teachers who voted not to recertify their union, and thanks to Act 10, they won't have to pay union dues if they don't want to. And by the way, as I told Linda Bruin, this is what democracy looks like. Thanks for joining us, and join me for my radio show Monday morning. It's on News Radio 620 WTMJ from 8:30 until noon. Have a great week.